PowerPlayChess, brought to you in association with Kagi. My chessball courses are on sale until the end of August. Yes, today is the last day when you can get yourself a bargain. You might well have seen that successful Kalashnikov games sent in by viewers of the channel. But in this video, I'd like to show you a line that I analysed in my Anti-Sicilians course. So in my course, I cover all those lines where white doesn't go for an open Sicilian with d4, but instead plays things like the Rossolimo or the Alapin. What else? The Mora Gambit. I give you a good antidote against that. And of course, the Grand Prix attack is a very important line to have something against. It can be very dangerous, but actually I think it's just very nice for black. The other way of getting into the Grand Prix attack is with f4. Now that's been somewhat discredited, but of course, you have to know what you're doing with black. And I want to show you a really funny line against this, which is just incredible. There's some beautiful sacrifices. And I know from satisfied customers that they've managed to employ exactly this line that I'm going to show you. So this is the problem with playing f4 on the second move. If you don't play knight c3, then black can play d5, which already breaks up these two pawns. And once those pawns are broken up, it's very hard for white to get any kind of kingside attack. Now the main line here is taking on d5 and then knight f6. Full details in the course. But what I want to look at here is what happens after d5 when white plays e5 and tries to steer the game into a kind of French defence. Well, actually, I think this is just a very pleasant position for black. Because it's like a French where black has very good central control, it's hard for white to get in d4. But also, this bishop is able to get into the game. It's not blocked in by that pawn on e6. So for those reasons, I think black is absolutely fine. But to my surprise, this is actually played quite a lot. So it's good to have something up your sleeve to know something against this. So knight c6, steady development. White develops the knight, and now bishop g4. So this is really nice. Get this bishop outside the pawn chain before you play e6. Bishop e2, e6. There we go. That lovely French pawn chain, super solid. And this time, with the pawn on c5, it's very hard for white to get in d4. So black just has greater control in the centre. And that opens up some very interesting possibilities in a moment. Knight h6. Now, that square f5 is really important. That's where we want to station the knight. c3 and knight f5. That is such a big beast, as we're going to see. So it looks at some really key squares in the position. d3, and now another really important move, h5. And this heralds potentially some attack on the king side. So knight a3, well, that's a plausible move. I mean, the problem for white here is that how do you bring this knight into play? Obviously, knight d2, inadvisable because of knight e3. So knight a3 is a common way to bring this knight into the game via c2. But in this particular position, black has a really nice move that I analyse in great detail in the course. And that's c4. So this opens up this diagonal, but also this diagonal. Now, there's a lovely trick here. Pawn takes pawn is a mistake. I'll show you what happens after d4. There's a really nice line against d4. I'll show you that in a second. d4 is prudent to close this diagonal. But let's just have a quick look at pawn takes pawn. Now this is a mistake because black has bishop c5 check. The king goes in the corner, and now a wonderful move. Can you spot it? I'm sure you can. Knight g3. You don't hang around here. You don't play h4. You can play knight g3 straight away. Now, obviously, with the bishop on c5, this knight has to be taken. And then h4. And you can see that the king is just cornered here. And yeah, I mean, I know a couple of players have written in to me saying, yeah, I won my game really quickly. These were online games. I managed to checkmate my opponent like this. But white can actually survive here for a few moves. This is a winning position for black. But king h2 just keeps white in the game. And you've got to play quite precisely to win this one. But let me show you this, because this is fantastic. So first of all, we'll take on g3. Then we take on f3. And now queen h4. So black is a piece down. But this king is in massive trouble. It is a winning position for black. But it's tricky. Let me show you this. So pawn takes pawn. Okay, queen h5 check. And, well, I'll leave you to analyse this, but basically this is actually winning for black. So king e4, queen f5 check, king here. And castle to queen side. Now the threat, or a more potent threat, a potential idea is knight e5. So yeah, if queen d3 trying to exchange queens, then knight e5 check. So that's one thing that white has to watch out for. And also this rook is about to come into the game. Okay, so what about king g3? So that obviously stops knight e5. Queen g6 check. Bishop g4. Okay, what's black's best move here? So I'll have a quick drink. You have a quick think. Black to play. Cheers. The best move here is knight e7. I often say to my students, if you're not sure how to continue the attack, throw another piece in. Once the knight spins round, then the king is in massive trouble. Okay, so let's say d6, at least trying to shut this rook out. Okay, what's the quickest way for black to finish off the game? I should say that knight check, this should be winning, but there's something even more convincing than that. A stunning move. So can you find it? Black to play and win. Rook h4. Wonderful stuff. Okay, we'll look at king takes in a second. What about pawn takes knight? Well, don't play rook takes queen, because actually that turns the tables. White is winning that position. But rook d3 is a winning move, because if, well, queen takes, then queen g4 is mate. Rook d3 is actually a winning move. Okay, let's come back to king h4. And here's the winning move, knight f5 check. So if that's if that's taken, then rook h8 and a nice checkmate in a couple of moves. And if king h3, rook h8, bishop h5, queen g3, checkmate. Wow, beautiful stuff. Now I want to go back. There are, of course, there are alternative variations, but I wanted to show you the flashy stuff there. So I want to come back to this position. So this is where black has just played c4, opening up these diagonals. So what if white plays prudently and plays with d4? So wanting to put, well, first of all, closing this diagonal, and then wanting to put the knight back on c2, and that gives white some security. But black has a really nice continuation here. Bishop takes knight, and then b5. Really nice strategy. So black wants to play a5, and then b4 to undermine support for the pawn on d4. And strategically, this is very good for black. But let me just show you one particular variation, which is very nice. Rook b1. So rook b8. So still planning a5 and b4. Okay, what if white decides, okay, I want to kind of clear things up on the king side and potentially even play g4 to drive this knight away? Well, black plays a5 and isn't worried about g4. So the threat is to play b4 to undermine the support for that pawn on d4. Once that pawn on d4 drops, then these pawns are just too strong. Okay, so white decides, right, I want to drive away that knight. And that will give white some security. But here, black has a really nice attack. Well, it's not surprising with the rook on the open file. Queen h4. So the queen moves into the danger zone. Okay, so pawn takes knight. Now, again, your move. Time for you to have a think. Time for me to have a drink. Cheers. Black to play and win. What's the best way for black to play in this position? This is, again, really beautiful. Cheers. Calculation needed, by the way. Well, if you thought that just checking randomly is going to win, I'm sorry. After the king reaches e3, in fact, white stands better in this position. Let's go back. But there is a beautiful move. And think back to that other variation we had. You need another piece. Knight e7. A beautiful, beautiful quiet move that kills white. White has no defense here. So, okay, let me show you one particular variation. Okay, what about pawn takes pawn? Queen h1 check. Rook h2. Is the king safe on e3? Not here. First of all, black exchanges queens. And then knight f5. Is checkmate. No escape with the rook on the second rank. Wow, what a variation. And I love this idea. Knight e7. Again, it's about getting one more piece into the attack to finish off your opponent. Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to leave that position on the board. So if you're interested in finding out more about the Anti-Sicilians, all those variations I showed at the start, then my course is on sale until the end of August, until the end of 31st of August. Today's your final day. And of course, if you're interested also in the Kalashnikov, then that course is also on sale. Do check that out as well. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.